What's up, everybody? I'm a Slinky here, and guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. We have a we have now we have a history book of the likes that you guys would love to know, honestly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is in the history book. If it is in the history book, I actually will talk about it outside of a couple things, as that's probably something that I've been told not to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start now. First off, before we get into this, guys, this is a very early history book, very early history of Bloom SMP from 2024 to 2026. As of right now, it is July 2026. So let's get into it, guys. And beforehand, I actually went through it and I was laughing pretty hard about. So just want to let you guys know this is actually great, honestly, history. So here's the Bloom SMP began on January 19th, 2024. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we actually did not officially go live until February of 2024. So what was going on here? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we had a pre-trial period to test the server out. They allowed us to join the server, and yeah, you guys will see who the first people were. But I was actually the first. You guys will see here, but yeah, this we had, I think it was a 2 to 3 week trial period, and then they actually opened up the server. So one thing I will also say here, I didn't notice in here that Hawk has, and unfortunately, I have to actually revert to a video of somebody else. Um, but there are a couple of events in here that I think we missed, but that's okay. I'll talk about those as well. So the Bloom SMP began, and this was built by Milu, Deku, Wendell, Jackie Starbright, a player who hasn't really joined the server really since the very early days of Bloom. Reagan, Zeographer, who's no longer a staff member, Chaos, Ivana, Neiman, and Hawkeye. So these are very early days. And these are notable historical moments. The first person that was a non-mod was me. I was also the first player to get diamond armor, which is impressive. By the way, the first two achievements by one player is very impressive, actually, very impressive. And the reason why I say that is because seeing a player do this is like for multiplayer servers and like being able to get diamond armor, etc., etc., etc. It's really cool to see that the first things really are by one player. So big shout out, to Hawk for keeping up with this stuff. But it's very hard to do as a player who's very notable, honestly, or who's not very notable. And then Hawkeye was the first person to get a netherite block. Very impressive. Server officially opens, February 2nd. Yeah, this is what I was saying. We had a 2 week time frame before it really came out. A special cake was given to players along with suffixes and such. These suffixes are no longer eligible to get. You have to be there at the first, couple weeks. Total record of people online is 63, which is impressive. I've only seen 50. First person to 100 was also me, which again, have the first 6 of these achievements, 3 of them are by one person. That's really impressive, guys. Actually, that you should very much be looking into that. Also, it doesn't talk about here, but I was actually one of the first players to have actually items stolen from me. I haven't talked about that, but that wasn't actually in there as well, which that's the wrong side of history there. The first person to 200 chucks was Hawkeye, which is awesome. And then the Dragon Egg, there's a whole history video on this one that I can probably just use this from. But the Dragon fight was very interesting. A player by the name of Quasi, who doesn't play the server anymore, got the egg and was very confused how they got it. Hawkeye then, we before the longest time we actually had no idea who had the dragon egg before Quasi had told Hawkeye that was a thing. And so with a player by the name of Strats and me went and helped him out. And by the way, guys, it doesn't talk about this as well, but actually, I was also trying to purchase the dragon egg as well at the time. There's a little bit of history there as well. And all the items here are beacons, shulker boxes. Oh, I'm going to also make sure that we get this, honestly. We're going to make sure that this guy dies. This is also the first time I've seen full armor here. There we go. It's really good that I'm also doing that. But yeah, it was 2 beacons, 32 shulker boxes, 64 diamond blocks, 3 stacks of emerald blocks. That's some, and full enchanted netherite god netherite armor, 4 shulkers of wood of any choosing, 4 totems, and then I think there was another item on here that we haven't talked about as well, but like that is really impressive, honestly. That's a very, very, that's a huge item on us, a huge amount. And I actually made a video on this. This is actually one of my first early videos on Bloom SMP. A player by the name Invixity, he got banned, was the first person to hit 100 deaths. And actually at the time, he was very proud of that, honestly. I don't know how often we would be proud of having 100 deaths on a server, but it did happen. First base blown up was by the name of Pele Screwit. The player is also known for playing the first base being griefed actually as well. So it's like, I also have a video on this as well. But yeah, player has not been back since then, and actually probably is a good thing. Slinky and Cal are first players in the end. #Hacksters. I actually was streaming this, guys. I actually was live streaming, and I went to the end. I wish I had a clip of it, honestly. That's something I'd love to show off, but I was the first person, or Cal was the first person. I was the second person, which is just impressive. And then we also went on to mine endstone and then start divvying out a bunch of end armor trims, which was a very hard item to get, and it was also the first duplicated item on the server, by the way, guys. It wasn't a dupe, but it was the first item to be crafted to get duped. That's also a very interesting moment as well. And the server host Milu was very annoyed because they would have had to remove a bunch of items. They were very annoyed with us for a minute. The first fossil was found by Coco. I still have to go find that. I actually have to go find that again, guys. That's the one I don't actually have right now. But yeah, second fossil found by Pele. I thought that was the first fossil. I wasn't aware of a fossil being found. That video had been taken down. World map created was completed by Strats. That was a 5K by 5K world border. Still impressive that Strats did that, honestly. March 16, 2024, Strats hosted the first massive wither fight. That was insane. That was 32 withers, and I didn't die in the first one. You guys will see later, but in the next one, I actually did die quite a bit, and there was a whole bunch of items lost because of it. But the end, few did survive. March 22nd, Little Sad Fat Man. Yes, the real name of the real gamer name. Found the third fossil, which was impressive, by the way. Easter Bunny event, expand the world border. There were super rare items that Cal, Lils, Grex, Hawk, and Z got. Players also received mini blocks, and I actually have that in my memorial to show those off. March 29, 2024, I was the first. I made the largest arena ever at over 10,000 seats. I used 10,000 stairs, guys. So I like, it was in the ballpark of using, like, I think I had mined like 50 to 65, in between 50 and 65,000 wood, and it was oak exclusively. So a lot of wood was used then, which was impressive, honestly. And it also was used for a couple events as well. Cal found the fourth fossil April 18, 2024, and this is when we started to find just fossil after fossil. It was like every week or so we found a fossil from there. Cal made a netherite beacon, 9 blocks total. He was the first official to make the regular netherite beacon. That was super impressive at the time. And then May 4th, the PvP arena Infernal Coliseum was used, and then that's when tournaments started to really pop up. And then very shortly after that, actually, 2 weeks, really a week later, boom, first PvP tournament was held by me. And the name of Birkin, and by the way, we don't talk about this very often, but Birkin went on to win the next 2 tournaments. He was a 3-time tournament champion. No other player has ever been a 3-time tournament champion. We've also never had back-to-back winners since, which is impressive. And then that second went to Sydney, and Hawk was third. And by the way, guys, before we even jump into this is actually when I used to do player kills. So I used the player kill system, and then I had moved it over to a different system fairly after that, because it was a bit too confusing to try and figure out who was Bedrock and who wasn't. Server had custom achievements in June and July that were added, and then a secret one that is not allowed to be talked about. A very wild event took place on July 17th, which resulted in Withering Techno, a player getting banned permanently. Withering Techno actually is very controversial. I actually know a little bit as well, but Withering Techno actually had griefed a player, and it was actually one of the first times a player was trapped. Actually, it was actually called spawn trapping at the time. It was the first time that ever happened on the server. It was very surprisingly that only happened one time at that point, or it probably happened a couple other times. It was pretty awesome. At the time, it was actually pretty important for Bloom history, and thankfully we actually haven't had really spawn trapping issues since, which has been awesome. And then on July 25th, 2024, Hawkeye was graciously added to the admin team, which is awesome. Pretty important, honestly, that Hawkeye, he was a great moderator, honestly, at the time. A fantastic guy, and we all got to really like him at the time. August 6th, Bloom Spawn was griefed because an unnamed player blew up 9 stacks of TNT in the end. Yeah, the Bloom was griefed, but this was actually the end spawn. This was actually poorly written here, but the end spawn was griefed actually by a player, but it was accidental, therefore no punishment. And actually, big hype to staff for that. Honestly, it was pretty good. It's cool to see that some players weren't. This is actually when This is when the greenification of the end started to really get going. I have to do a whole history on that one. The next server quest was held in honor of 1.21 being added to the server. The server quest was harder, and they took 1 million copper ingots. Also, a player by the name of Cal Caroots. So you will hear his name a lot when it comes to events. Was literally in the top like 4 forever, and then he took number 1 because he grinded for 48 hours straight. Which was pretty crazy, honestly. That's a whole history in of itself for that event. But like, yeah, Cal actually took the lead in that event, and then they're like, no, it's not. And actually, to be honest with you, the player Lulu Tiffany was by far the player who had the most copper, and it wasn't close. Yeah, it was actually pretty wild. And then yeah, just in there, I was nowhere near actually the top 10 here. I actually only ended about 10,000, which was a pretty good achievement. I actually only took from my mineshaft exclusively, and I had 10,000 that was used, which is, again, super impressive, honestly. For a player who, 1, wasn't really big into events at the time, and 2, was grinding super hard into other things. I probably should have been just taking all the items at that point. That's when I started to just mine everything that I found. Yeah, but it also gave you. This was also another one that gave a special event. This was another special event one that they gave to for a special elytra where you didn't need rockets, which was impressive. A lot of people were really hard into that event too. Top 1, however, received the diamond chest plate, which was equivalent to a diamond chest plate. There's a player, number 28. There was a player who was so kind, he made something for staff as a thank you for all the hard work they do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say this. I actually did do this. You guys will see here. It was actually me that did this. Sagittarial Gal and Vlixum, a newer player at the time, really trying to make a good name for themselves, honestly. And Vlixum was, I think, somewhat suspect for some few things. But they came and helped me out, and Sagittarial Gal, a great builder. Honestly, I don't entirely remember if I have them in an elite builder club list that I've made. But yeah, Sagittarial was awesome, and she did a lot of the interior, honestly. And Vlixum also helped with a couple of good builds as well. So, and what's awesome is it's also a place where Hawk writes, so it's like kind of like a getaway spot for staff. Honestly, is what I really wanted it to be. Honestly, it was a place where they can just kind of go chill and like kind of mess around with stuff. Also, in that same town, I know this isn't talked about as well, but a player, a staff member, actually an admin member, the name of Deku, actually gave me a block palette that they liked, and it was really interesting to see what they actually liked. That's not added in here, but that's a very important moment. Also, if you guys are interested about Iconic Town, you guys are very much willing to go over there. Like, I have no problem with players going there. There was a great moment of lost and found, of lost and then found. Someone lost a very rare Elytra, and someone found it, and someone returned it. The story detailed in the book Icarus and Elytra. Pretty cool. But also, what's also pretty cool as well is about this same time frame as well. Um, actually, very early on in the server, a player actually found a bunch of stolen items from an event. I didn't actually. It's not actually talked about, but there's a bunch of stolen items at the CTF event that I think is later in the book. Cuddles held first server event custom tree building. The winners of 3 categories were technical and visual. Lamb, Bunny, and Saggy. Awesome people. But also some people say rigged because Bunny staff. Actually, at the time, Bunny was not actually staff at the time. So pretty funny how that worked out. September 19th, the first trolling player came in and made a large, ugly lava stone tower. Not Mr. Mojo. Here are the courts for it. 844 -2. Why it was right there on the 0 is very confusing to me, but sure. The second server event was the statue competition. Many people submitted, but the winners were Hex Girl, Seal, and Bunny. You can tell Bunny's a really elite builder. You can tell. The shop has been going strong, and then the expansion was awesome. And then we got an Unbreakable Fortune 4, and I was actually on the outside looking in for this one, but this one was another one I was on the outside looking in. But great, these players are very, very elite. And then third place was Diddy, second place was Cal, and first place was Hawk. Just blew out of the wall. I don't know where Hawk got 10,000 diamonds from, honestly. Maybe he was just grinding, but like, where the heck do you get 10,000 diamonds when everyone else is just so much higher or so much lower than that? 323, 2025, Hawkeye creates dungeon challenge, which is awesome. And then actually, there's also a world record with this as well. The first one was by me at 26 minutes. And then it got slashed very quickly, and yeah, top 10 players to do this event were Quirky, Cal, which again, Quirky and Cal, impressive honestly to see Quirky up here, Lamb, Seal, and Sirius, especially for Sirius. Sirius is more of a builder, so to see Sirius up here is really impressive. And then Tasky, Westy, Akiv, Cuddles, and Run. I don't know who that player actually is, to be honest. I never really got to know them, so I don't know them all that well. The Dragon Age structure was completed by Hawk, December 31st, 2024. Yeah, and that's, again, really impressive. And I'm going to, take a moment to do this, just so we can walk around. There we go. And we'll jump back up to 35. I wish there was a way. But just so that I don't delete any of the packages. I don't get deleted or kicked off for sending too many packets. Monthly PvP was held by Slinky on 2/15/25. The winner was at the end Tasky, although there was 2 very odd moments that happened. Hawk's rare head went missing and no one knows where it went. Along with the winner of overall fights was Saigo, SS Saigo, who raged for almost no reason and got themselves permaban, leaving all of their items lost and claimed right then and there. Hawkeye's head is still missing, slain by the now banned player. Ladies and gentlemen, this was actually found about a year later. I know this. I don't remember officially when. It was about a year or so later when this was found. It was actually me that had accidentally found it, honestly, surprisingly. Although the exact date of the creation is unknown, the first ever secret organization, just known as the Mafia, was born. The exact locations and members are unknown, and they are rumored to be growing as staff has infiltrated them. Henceforth, so from here on out as well. And I actually want to talk about this while there was actually a little bit of a time where the Mafia was actually so big that they actually were challenging Java players, which again, this whole organization, the Mafia, was extremely controversial and extremely annoying in history perspective. But I was in there. I was like, fine, I'm just gonna fight you too. Honestly, I was tired of all the crap that was going on with them, and I said, fine, I'm freaking dealing with it. And so I went to go help a player by the name of Storm, and another player, I forget who it was, also was helping, which just absolutely destroyed them. Honestly, I had to actually head out to work, so it ended up being one less player, but I did help fight in that whole thing. It was pretty fun, but also again, this organization is just straight up controversial, which I think it's funny now, but at the time we're all just like, come on, guys, can we just like be cool? And from here on out as well, things are going to be out of order. We'll do the best we can because some of this history came a little later. So yeah, it's just because the period of the time now known as the deficit. I love how he put the E there. The deficit equals players began leaving for multiple reasons, and there's actually a couple other big reasons as well as the server actually was discontinued at one point. Actually, that was pretty interesting, and I actually was live when this happened. Actually, for some reason, I always find for some reason whenever I'm streaming, I get the the luckiest moments in Bloom SMP history, but I can't get to them because they're just completely removed. But yeah, the deficits had happened, and players it just really slowed down, and the organization of Bloom just kind of like fizzled out for a bit. It was slowly fizzling out, and then like later on, it just kind of became hard for some players to play. First builds were added to spawn 6/7/26, which is June 7th, 2026, which is impressive. Mushrooms added to spawn, and a large trees now cover the sky. Server road center created. Lands began to be connected via a deep slate and granite road covering thousands of blocks in all directions, which some of them are actually connected to bases, actually, which is impressive. And actually, I also have to say, I also made a road as well in my area. I have to make a little video on that one too. Hawk finishes one of the largest builds on Bloom, detailing the history and a monument to Bloom's first kingdom's wheat PvP carrots and grinding. This was built out negative. I actually didn't know this, honestly, guys. I actually didn't know this, which is awesome. But yeah, this actually I actually called it the Crop Wars, and surprisingly, there were like 6 different players who were actually involved, or and it really ended up being a 4. It was really a 1v2, and it was the Valley of Wheat versus the Valley of Potatoes, or the Potato Empire is what it was called. That was super interesting and actually super like cool to like. Awesome to see that the first kingdoms of wheat and carrots and yeah, PvP stuff. It's pretty awesome. But I have to actually do a whole history on that, and I have to go find screenshots to show you guys off because like there's no way that you guys would even understand what was going on if I'm just explaining it to you guys. And this is still ongoing. November 27th, 2025 began the make map art, which by the way, guys, half of us had no idea that this was even being was happening until like I went and checked around to do a video, and then I found out that there were other things happening. So I obviously shared screenshots of what I saw, but I'm fairly certain I was the player to figure that out. But a player will figure this out later on. But Ro was not the first person to create map art. Silva creates Death Cannon on Bloom. That was very recent. Trash items were all the trash items were attained by Neeple. They were very highly rare and also they are allowed in tournaments as it was a ruling I had made. So that's, and you know, you could use them to also kill mobs. New record 350 is the current world record in Hawk's dungeon. It's very difficult to beat that, but I do think there's a couple places in that video that you can still go. I think the time is probably close to 340. So we're like really close. I think it's gonna be 340 to 330. I don't think it's possible to be any quicker than that. I don't know. We have to figure out the most optimal lines, honestly. But yeah, as of right now, the world record is held by Mr. Cuddles, and which is impressive because Cuddles had been doing runs for a while. And the time was starting from first sprint to ending in the winning chamber. Unknown portal found and believed to be created by an old dev, Deku. Chords are lost to time, but near a end portal. It's actually near a Uh, I had the ancient city portal, but that's okay. I actually have a video on this one as well because it was very interesting, and history of Bloom is actually interesting. Did he completes into but yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I think it's one of those things where you're like, this is kind of cool. And several players actually had went and looked at it themselves. All right, for Diddy completes the entire mini block collection, making it one of the rarest collections on Bloom. Yeah, it's actually very impressive that Diddy did that. A group of players came together to sign a petition to make a staff member create a wand poster, and these players include Akiv, Eagles, Pam, Sirius, Lulu, Sab, Hee, joining Lily Volpina, which is technically technically an error there. Alien Ash, which I haven't seen them in a while. RHX, Rocks, I think is what we called them. Silva, Dev or Devitrian Cast. I just call him Dev. Slinky, Banzel, West, Lily, and Garoob and Phantom, also known as Galax. Yeah, they came in. I made a videos. I made a couple videos on this too. First person to get Netherite Beacon official. This is technically a slight misinformation. This is the first full Netherite Beacon. This is something that we gotta make sure that it's just. I want to make sure that's out there. This is the first full Netherite Beacon that was made by Mr. Cuddles. Cal was right behind him, and actually he was the first one to get 2 beacons. So very shortly after that, he went and got 2 Netherite beacons, and these are full Netherite beacons, ladies and gentlemen. I also made a video on this as well. You guys can tell some of the videos, some of these history moments are actually from my YouTube channel. You guys can tell. A rare dupe bug was found that almost ruined the server comment. I also talked about it as well a little bit, explaining how it worked, but I waited until after this was patched to really get going with this. And a player by the name of Hawkeye Crofts, also the player that was notified actually about it, had went in and alerted staff about the bug. I asked if it was something I could do, and they said yes. It was only after it was patched, and I said that's totally fine. But it was patched very shortly after that, and that dupe was actually there were several players actually who had known about the dupe actually. I didn't really go too much into detail about it at the time because I wasn't sure how many people knew about it, but several players had known about it at the time. First server map art was created by Quirky. Again, another we've seen this name before. Quirky honestly killed it with the cat with an open mouth picture. It's just awesome, man. What an awesome video. But also what an awesome moment on the server. We had map art that some of us didn't know about. That's pretty wild. And then this is featured on my YouTube channel very early on in the server actually, and this is something I had found. It was I don't know how this actually happened, but it was, I think, weird rare generation that had happened. And I talked about very early on in the server, but it was a mystery that never really was solved. I'm not sure who genuinely made it or if it was intended to be that way, but I thought it was human made or a player made, so it was kind of cool. But no one really knows much about it. And I think a player did come forward once about it, but I mean, it would have to be a YouTube comment. Very old history, but it was actually found very early on in the server by another player. And that's why I documented the chords on this and went back and I officially made a video on it. This was probably 6 months after it was known about actually. So but yeah, I had found it with another player, told me about it, and we just didn't know about it. We didn't know who had done it. I had suspected that it was a staff member that did it, but yeah, a very odd moment, honestly, in Bloom SMP history that will go as a mystery for probably the rest of the server time. And then a rare bug was found, and several rare mobs, including zombie horses, which was such a fun thing to find. Were actually spawned accidentally, and again within even a couple hour period, it was actually patched as well. A secret room was found by Starfleur with a riddle. No one knows who or why it was created. Players suspect there is a very secret society that gives rare suffixes. Another secret room found by Neeple, now known as the Truth Society. So this is actually kind of where my videos kind of pick up a little bit with the Truth Society. We don't know much about it. It does remain a mystery, just like the ice carving. And then another room was found by Miffy and Arlo. Riddle and seems to be blue in theme. Circles appear to be expanding around from the ambassador. And I don't actually remember much about the ambassador, to be honest with you guys. Number 56, Amy, completes one of the largest head walls in the server. It was pretty impressive, actually, at the time. So, again, another video that I made, it was a player by the name of Amy. You'll see Amy every now and then come on the server. But one of the largest head walls in the server history. It was they were very much PvE oriented. And another video that I had actually talked about as well. And then again a little bit before this is within the first 2 months of the server, guys. Strats hosted the new largest Wither fight. So we had a Wither fight that happened, and then we had another fight about a month later with Strats being around, some of which are still around. We actually had there's actually a whole video, or I don't know if I made a video, but there's a whole huge amount of history with just these alone. There were 96 Withers, and we believe that to this day there might still be 1 or 2 left just roaming around that area. But it also had a lot of death messages and a lot of brutal respawns and a lot of land being. This is also the first time as well where land actually was reset, actually live. I don't know if I was live or if that had happened at all, or if that was a thing. But that the land by an admin, Deku, made actually reset the land so that we could do another fight for it. And that land still that land was very much crazy to this day. And then the 100 days challenge, we have 7 players now at the 100 days, and we have 1 player at the 200 days. I could probably do a video on that one as well. Cal Caroots at that 200 day mark. But Clean Wave knocking off another staff member from the leaderboard. So, and then this is a very interesting history event. Actually, Slinky hosted the first and as of now the last Capture the Flag event. So I had a really interesting event that I wanted to show off at CTF Stadium, and I tried it again, and I said no more for CTF. Players can't be responsible enough in my land. There is also a whole video about it, and actually I actually did a little bit of a compilation for that as well, very early on in the server, but this was the first. This was technically the second or third official event, but this was actually it was not the first event actually by a staff member. Over 30 players joined fighting for a flag. Staff were very much monitoring, which was good. And because I wanted to show it off, and it ended with a beautiful fireworks display, which was awesome. You know, it got to be a mark in the history for CTF Stadium, and I wanted to actually name it Bloom Stadium, guys. Kind of a little bit of a history moment here. I wanted to name my stadium Bloom Stadium, actually. But then staff members were like, actually, we don't necessarily think that's a good idea. And I was like, okay, well, I was thinking of another name, and I was thinking Capture the Flag. I was like, oh, it should be CTF Stadium. And that sounds pretty good, honestly, in my opinion. What a great idea that was, honestly. So, yeah, CTF Stadium was then born. And then 11/26/2024, staff created the first parkour place land titled Winter Parkour with 3 and more coming runs to test parkour. Players, I actually talked about this a little bit as well. I also actually got to beta test for staff. Honestly, that was awesome. Actually, that's something I was very happy to mess with. And actually, not only that, I found so many places in that parkour. They were like, "Are you freaking kidding me right now?" And that's actually how the meme with Ivana, the mad face going in a horizontal direction, kind of became a meme actually. So a little bit of history with that as well. Not long after the parkour was made, an ice boat race, which, by the way, guys, I actually remember wanting to talk about a video about this, but I never got around to it. But yeah, I do actually remember Ice Boat Racing was made, and there were a few players who actually participated, but it was something I actually never got to see. 10 total copies of this exact book have entered the server, making it a rare book with almost all history pre-new owner. And then Bloom was sold and owner transferred to Geki from the former owner Milu. Server begins to talk and converse about things happening. We also ask a bunch of questions as well about it. And then the server began exploding with members from all over as the new change began to be talked about. And the new owner added voice chat, better host, and began to make small changes. What happens then will be left to time. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a 2-year overview of really big events that happened on Bloom SMP. Very, very, very cool. This book will end up in my book of memories. Very, very fun. And if players are interested as well, I will not allow people to read, but you guys get to see it on YouTube. So you got a 30-minute overview of between January 19th, 2024 and July 29th, 2026. Congratulations. If you made it all the way through here, a lot of history, there's in a 30-minute time frame was held here. Very, very cool. January 19th all the way to the end. Very, very awesome. Very happy. There's a lot of players who went and, wanted to see this. And yeah, pretty fun. My book will end up being in that big building behind me that you see. But yeah, that's the history of that. That's a very, very brief overview. That doesn't talk about day-to-day stuff, but big stuff had happened then, which is awesome. I want to shout out a player, Hawkeye Cross or Hawk Cross or however people want to talk about. Just want to shout them out, honestly. This was an awesome video that I got to share that history with. And also, you guys only saw in here a couple of bans. There were other players who did get banned, but it was very, very like normal stuff. Very interesting, very uninteresting things. Those two bans that are talked about, and we don't really talk. And there's a couple of things in here as well. The dragon fight is not actually fought in here, and a lot of players actually were very surprised and loved the dragon fight at the time. It was very easy to talk about as well. I know that's not actually here in the book, and there's a couple of players. I would have to find those videos that I can link. But I also, as the dragon fight actually on my end got corrupted, which was too bad, honestly. But it was a fun fight. That was really enjoyable. And the server owner, Milu, or the former server owner, Milu, got to also participate as well, and several staff members. And there's another thing with Hawk and or with the end portals as well. This wasn't talked about, but actual code actually got changed because Cal and I went to the end. So actual code was changed then. That's just the couple of things I want to say. That the dragon fight, and also one more thing as well. I actually found an elytra when there was possibly no elytra in the end. A player by the name, I forget his name, but he got banned actually shortly after for actually talking about the IP address. That's not actually here in this book as well. But that's a whole different history moment. That player was banned for leaking an not the IP address, the server seed actually. So this is why we don't talk about the server seed. That's just something I also wanted to talk about as well, because you can get banned for that. But it's pretty well known that the server's been up for a couple of years now. It's pretty well known that that this had happened. But yeah, there was a few. But yeah, there was really also at that time as well. There was also very new things when it came to hacking as well. But I'm not gonna go too much into that because that's not really important history. But yeah, super important, honestly. And yeah, also with that thing as well, I actually went to go and investigate as well for staff as well, because staff, me being there, I was actually a well-known player at that point. So I went to go investigate a little bit for staff as well at the time, but at that point, like, that's very minor details to that. So yeah, those are really the couple pieces of information that was left out. That's okay. We're human. We won't remember everything. But yeah, just those are just two things I wanted to say, three things I wanted to share. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this very, very long history video. I don't really get to share a lot of the Bloom history that Hawk really has gotten to share with us very often. It's very awesome to see that Hawk was willing to share this with players who had wanted it, and I wanted this mostly for history purposes. But yeah, so we're kind of entering a new era now of Bloom here, where we have a new server owner, new things are happening, we have new mods that are allowed. Yeah, pretty crazy to have all this history kind of in this much. Like, you have to be there sometimes to actually understand. Also, what I want to call this one more thing as well. I know I talk about this a lot. With Cal and I going to the end, there were actually a couple players at the time who were actually calling for a ban. That's very, very important, actually. I forgot about that one. I forgot that piece of information. But there were a couple players calling for a ban for both Cal and I for going to the end early. So that's just something I want to also say as well. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. That should be the end of the history. I think that's most of it, or about 90% of it. There's probably a couple odds and ends that we've missed, but that's okay, guys. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, take the time to think about it. And if you have any questions as well, shoot them into the comments. I'm almost more than likely willing to keep up with keep up with the history of Bloom, and the history will continue to go on. Where this is just a very up to this point brief overview, and there's a couple of videos I probably should make about the history of this. But yeah, that should be all of it, guys. My name is I'm a Slinky.